church to try and correct something. Depending on your denomination, the doctrine, I think it's the Lutherans have the 7 steps of faith, and the Nazarenes have the 13 steps of faith, and different people have what they think is the basic building blocks of the church. But if you look at the Apostle Creed gives you pretty much all the basic building blocks of the church. Jesus is the Son of God. Jesus died on the cross. Jesus arose on the 3rd day. Those things are essential. If you start talking about, well, he just woke up again, he didn't actually die, the coolness of the grave revived him, you are taking the basic building block and pulling it out of the foundation and hoping that the building's going to stay. Jesus died and rose again on the 3rd day. And if you go through the Apostles' Creed, you'll get what I consider to be the basic building blocks of the church from the apostles themselves. Okay? God made it simple. God said, here's the 10 commandments, live by them. What'd we do? We wrote 9 million pages of legal code to do what? To basically say, thou shalt not steal. But then we had to write another 10,000 pages to tell you how not to steal on the stock market.
Or how to get out of it.
Or how to get out of it. Then we had to write another 5,000 pages to tell you how not to steal by embezzling from the company. And God made it real simple. He said, don't steal other people's stuff. And we wrote this huge legal code that basically just deals with the 10 commandments. And then we want to take the 10 commandments off the wall and take away all the simplicity. And we wonder why this society is wandering around groping for truth. It's buried under 9 million pages of legal code. And God said, keep it simple, folks. Thou shalt not steal. Don't commit adultery with your neighbor's wife. Rest
or
on
anyone.
What?
I said or anyone, not just
or anyone.
I'll put 2 houses down, it won't matter.
Yeah, 10 minutes after you get caught, it won't matter. He's going to shoot you. All right, Genesis.
History?
History. Exodus.
History? No.
History. Now there is some doctrine in there. It's got the 10 commandments and things, but it's kind of scattered in around the story of Israel's Exodus. Okay. Leviticus. I'll take a shot.
History?
Doctrine. Most of it is how God wants you to live your life. Numbers. Doctrine. Deuteronomy. Doctrine. Okay. Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles.
History.
It's all about the kings, the rise of the Israel's nation, the rise of Israel, what happened when they rebelled. It's just a whole bunch of historical, chronological facts. Ezra? Ezra? Prophecy. Nehemiah. Prophecy. There is a lot of history in Nehemiah, but about 55–60% of it is prophecy. Esther.
History.
What's a unique thing about the book of Esther? touch on this when we do the next sheet also. But what's the unique thing about the book of Esther? I'll leave that for an assignment. What is the unique thing about the book of Esther in the Bible? It's unique from all the other books in the Bible.
It's written while they were in, they weren't in,
They weren't in Israel.
Israel, yeah.
Neither was Daniel. So it's not unique. Daniel wasn't written in, and a lot of Paul's were not written in Israel. They were written in other cities. So, nice guess, but But you'll find out. We'll talk about that later. Job.
Doctrine.
Wisdom. It's poetic, and it's considered to be wisdom literature. Psalms.
Poetry. Poetry.
Wisdom, yeah.
Yeah.
Poetry. Proverbs.
Wisdom, poetry.
What?
Wisdom, poetry.
Wisdom. Ecclesiastes and Song of Solomon.
Poetry.
Four.
Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, Joel, Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi.
It's all prophecy.
Prophecy. I skipped one in there. Did you catch that?
Lamentations.
Lamentations. What was it? Lamentation was a book of wisdom, or poetry. Matthew.
History. History. History.
History with a lot of doctrine, but basically by and large it's what happened. It's history. Now Jesus along the line said you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to love your neighbor as yourself, and all that's good, very good advice, and very good practical instruction, and some of it turned into doctrine, but basically it's a historical book. Mark.
History.
History. Luke.
History.
John.
History.
John's doctrine. It's got more doctrine than history. Now the first three books are mostly history. They talk about facts and places and things, but there's huge chapters in John where Jesus talks about the value of love and how love is essential to the church. So John is the one gospel that is more doctrine than it is history. Isn't this cool? Like this? It was a good question. Jerry. Acts.
History.
History. Romans. Romans.
Doctrine.
Doctrine. You're exactly right, Don. There's more doctrine. There's some history in Romans, but there's more doctrine than there is history. It is a very doctrinal book. 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, 1 and 2 Thessalonians, 1 and 2 Timothy, Titus, Philemon.
Wisdom. Doctrine. No.
Practical instruction.
Practical instruction. He's talking to the churches and he's saying, here's what you need to do. Here's what your problem is. You've lost sight of this doctrine, or you've lost sight of that doctrine. You're starting to think more about men than you're thinking about Jesus. He's your foundational building block. It's not about the singing. It's not about the teaching. It's about Jesus. If He's the source, then the teaching and the singing are good. Okay? So it's practical instruction. He's taking the doctrine and applying it to their problem and giving them wisdom. Practical instruction. Hebrews.
Doctrine. Doctrine?
Doctrine. James, 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1st, 2nd, 3rd John, and Jude.
Practical instruction?
Practical instruction. Revelation.
I'd say it's 3 and 5.
Prophecy?
2 and 5. Prophecy is practical instruction.
Right. But basically, mostly prophecy. Considered to be prophecy. And if you apply that prophecy and get ready for the things that are going to happen, it turns into practical instruction, which becomes wisdom because you took action. So everything kind of works together, and you can take any book in the Bible and you can find a verse that's prophecy when the rest of it's history. But this is, by and large, what the highest percentage of the book was dealing with. Okay? All right, now, next week we start on your second sheet because the language thing is pretty simple and we can handle that in about 5 minutes. So, next week we're going to start on your second sheet. So start looking at those questions. All right?